What is the clap? Is it like gonorrhea?
Hold on. What is the clap?
Gonorrhea. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's terrible.
Okay, I found this.
Well, its word origins are Middle English.
For gonorrhea or the clap?
Oh, it's gonorrhea.
Oh.
Okay, I can clap now whenever you guys are ready.
Hello and welcome to the GamBrew Podcast, episode 19 on December 4th, 2017. I am your host, Ian Richard, and I escaped from the basement, and I'm here this week with Dan Rotz.
Hello.
Chris Wrights.
Hi.
And Will Shell. In our first segment, we'll suggest some titles that we want to see ported to Nintendo Switch, and then in the second half of the show, we'll ask the question, when do games turn into work? But first, it's time for a beer.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Chris, what are you drinking this week?
I was about to say, where's
Sorry,
the
I just
question?
got really excited about pouring.
This week we're drinking Brother Thelonius by Coast Brewing Company. It's the same people that did Old Rasputin, which we drank a couple episodes ago.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's delicious.
I loved Old Rasputin.
Well, I guess you just like North Coast, huh?
Apparently.
It's got some nice spice to it. It's got a great color. Can someone turn off their cell phone?
No.
So it's a Belgian style Abbey Ale, and it's so red. It's incredibly red in the glass. Like, it's beautiful.
Yes.
But
Yeah, it's really good, and I really like the artwork that's on the bottle. It's got Thelonious Monk holding a chalice of it, basically. It's really cool. Mm-hmm. Bottled bebop.
And a skull.
And a skull.
Yeah, that's why. Do you know why he's on there? And why they called it that?
tell us, Dan. Tell us.
Well, because whenever you buy a Brother Thelonious Belgian-style Abbey Ale, you also support the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz.
What?
It's like the humble bundle of beer.
There was the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz at UCLA.
There was. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So basically you're supporting UCLA.
Yeah, so support music. Also, I met Thelonious Monk's son. Yeah, I met his son when I was in high school because he's a percussionist. He's a drummer, not a piano player. He's really cool.
That's awesome.
Like, super cool jazz guy.
Yeah, the beer is great. It's coming in at 27 IBUs, which is super low, so it's not bitter.
9.4% alcohol, though.
Yeah.
Is it?
It'll get you drunk.
Anybody else getting just a little bit of banana on the nose?
A little bit.
Really?
But you don't really taste it that much.
No, you don't taste it. Just on the nose.
I really like the spices, like the spice flavors in it.
Spice.
Yeah.
Spice, baby.
Yeah.
That is a really great... That's a good beer.
It's a good beer. I was having trouble finding it. I was only able to get 2 of them.
Uh-huh. Wait, you're only able to get 2?
Mm-hmm.
2 of the big-ass ones, though.
No,
Right?
no, two little babies.
Why 2 little babies?
Wow.
It's either popular or not around here a lot.
I got 4 little babies.
It's probably not around there a lot.
That's twice as many
it's
little babies that I have.
Brewed in Fort
It is.
Bragg, California. I don't know if we already said that, but it's California beer.
California.
How far away are you from it?
Delectable.
I don't know where Fort Bragg is, but that zip code seems pretty far away.
Well, California's
Those
a big
numbers
state.
are large. That's what that means.
That's the scientific method that we have here at the Game Brew.
Because we're full
so
of facts.
What have we been up to, guys, this week? Actually, I want to go to Will first because Will made it a large, important, and a wonderful purchase.
I did, but before we get to what I've been up to, I'd like to talk about briefly what I'm up to right this very moment. So I met my parents
Hi, Mom and
because
Dad.
they needed some help for the evening. My dad needed some help. So that's where I am. And currently I am surrounded by a half full small baby bottle of Diet Coke.
It's half empty.
Diet Coke.
An unopened thing of Very Berry Cheerios flavored with real fruit.
Is it real fruit?
It is
it
real
though?
fruit
It's
and other natural flavors.
dehydrated?
And Mount Olive Petite Snack Crunchers Sweet Petite Pickles.
Okay. Why did you want to share that with us?
Because it's just like this random. It's like this random hodgepodge of shit that's just on my parents' dining room table. So I'm like, okay.
No, don't lie. That's what you wanted a snack. You wanted to take the pickles.
I just wanted some
dip
pickles
them
and
in the
Oreos.
Cheerios.
And I wanted, yeah.
And then you eat that and be grossed out because ew.
No, so I've been up to playing this new thing I got. I got a new handheld. It's this little thing called the Switch, and it's awesome. It's amazing. I have seen the light, and I am a believer.
Praise be, brother.
Praise Nintendo.
Jeebus.
It is so good. I cannot believe how much I actually am buying into the whole concept of taking my primary gaming apparatus with me on the go. It's amazing. It's the most wonderful thing ever.
I have found that it completely changes the way that I play games in my free time, because all those little spaces that are free in your life when you're just around the house, you could just pop up your Switch and like...
Yeah, it's great. And I'm playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is, oh boy, does that scratch.
I've heard they're good.
It's great.
They, a lot of the people that worked on the first Xenoblade also did some of the world design for Breath of the Wild, I believe. Which makes sense because they had from what I've heard, it's a very expansive universe that they built.
Yeah, the environments in that game, just from the screenshots I've seen, look incredible.
Oh,
and it's kind of like a test run for Breath of the Wild.
And boy, does it scratch the JRPG itch in the best way possible. I haven't been this engrossed in an RPG experience since some of the first playthroughs of some Final Fantasy games. The story is just impeccably done. The voice acting is wonderful, and the battle system is familiar for a JRPG, but new and unique in terms of its mechanics. And it's just wonderful.
So I have a question for you, because you also just bought a laptop recently. Does it have a better gaming experience for you than having that on the go? For
my lifestyle, yes. Absolutely, because I'm not always in a position to have time to get out the laptop and plug it in and get out the mouse and then connect to the internet. And then, whereas this, I can just boop out of the bag, boop, wake from sleep mode, ding, 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 press the same button 3 times, and I'm gaming.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
It's difficult to understand, I think, as a person who doesn't at least have a handheld that they use on a regular basis, how nice it can feel to just pop it up and sit on the couch.
I've been doing that with the gaming laptop that I bought last month. I find myself, before I go to work, I try to wake up like an hour early and play something, and I'll usually play on my laptop on the couch instead of turning on my big rig.
Big rig.
Nothing motivates you to get up early in the morning, just like playing some video games before work. Let me tell you what.
Boy, howdy. Let me tell you.
Brad does that too. He says he gets on early in the morning. You probably see him. He gets on in the morning because he's like, I want to play some PUBG before I go to work today.
Yeah, man.
And I can't do that because I get up at 5
to get me ready for my coworkers. Dan, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I finished Evil Within 2.
Yay!
That was a big thing. Yeah. I haven't finished a game in a while, so that needed to happen.
About that too.
It's it took me 17 hours. Or 16.4.
That's pretty solid for a horror game in terms of length.
It was good. That's what I said a couple episodes or last episode.
On the microbrew, probably?
I don't know if it was on a microbrew. I can't remember. But that's what I like about it, is that it I thought it was going to end super soon, and then it didn't. There was just more stuff. It was very nice, very good story.
It didn't end up feeling too long.
No, I wasn't bored.
That's great. Yeah. I feel like a lot of times story games like that can outstay their welcome, and you're like, okay, another level of filler before the big boss. Very cool. But
that's the one thing. I mean, I didn't feel really challenged at the end of it though. The big boss was, kind of big, but spoilers, it was kind of shoot the glowy bits, kind of thing. Yeah. Your standard.
We've never done that before in gaming. I know, That's totally new.
Yeah, it's super new. Yeah, but it was good. The story left it open for there to be a sequel, if there is one. think it'd be kind of be a stretch to do a third one, but they left it open to do that.
Here's a question for you, Dan. If they did do a third one, what new mechanic would you want them to introduce? Like they introduced crafting for Evil Within 2.
Yeah, they
had mechanic would
I
they
thought there was
introduce?
crafting in the first
there was
three.
crafting, but they kind of made it better.
Revamped.
Yeah, they revamped the crafting. I would like them.
Did they revamp the craft out of it?
If they did it again, I want to have them kind of diversify the environments a little bit more, because most of the things are still, even though it's like different places, they're all still kind of like, here's a building with a bunch of rooms, like go in the rooms. Because a lot of the mechanics are like opening doors and hiding from things and sneaking around. It's very sneaky, a lot of sneaky. So I don't know. I just kind of want something that's a little bit different. They kind of changed it up at one point, and I was like, "Oh, this is a new area," but it only lasted like 10 minutes, and then and that was.
It's easy to feel fatigued in games where the environment is such a big player when it doesn't change enough.
Yeah.
They could.
Chris, what have you been up to, man? Ooh, sorry, Dan.
Oh no, you're fine. Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, Chris. Go.
So I did a kind of fun thing today. My friend Tyler came over. I took the day off today, and my friend Tyler came over last night, and we basically played. We started a Total War Warhammer co-op campaign together, and played that until like 3 a.m. last night, and then through like until 8:30 today. So we put in a good like 15 hours in this game.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I haven't
that's
done that in a
amazing.
long time. Was it super fun?
It was a lot of fun, and like we were sitting next to each other playing it, so it was kind of that LAN party feel. And I started out as the Empire, and he was the Bretonnians, which are more cavalry based. And we like made a lot of progress. We were able to play fights together, which was a lot of fun.
Play fights.
Yeah, I love playing the Total War games co-op. I think they're great.
That's awesome.
And then I've also been playing Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Which is that good? Is it worth like whatever $15 you have to pay for it?
If you can get it on sale for less than $10, do it now. Like, it is so much fun. It's just so intense and fun, and you'll be fighting a boss, and like they'll have the instrumental music, and then like when you get to the bottom 33%, they'll put in the vocals, and it'll just like kind of amp you up a little even more. Like, I really like that. But it's just kind of mindless and silly, and it's not like, I haven't played a lot of the Metal Gear games.
I haven't played any.
So
of
it's
the
kind
Metal
of
Gear games.
weird for me to be playing
You haven't
this.
played any of the Metal Gear games, and you playing Revengeance?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I said.
But I'm really enjoying it. Like, if you like Bayonetta or God of War or any of those types of games, you will like this game, and I think it does a great job.
I love it actually when game series do this, when they take the same characters, the same world, the same environment, the same storyline, but they give it a completely different gameplay aspect. I know even though it was a huge failure, do you guys remember the EVE Online shooter? I forget what it was called now.
The rail was it like a rail shooter that came out?
It wasn't
with,
a rail shooter. It was a first person. It was a first person like Call of Duty Online shooter.
No, I didn't know they did that
in the EVE universe. Yeah.
I knew that there was a big VR thing that they were pushing for Oculus, I think, but I don't know exactly what that was. But I know it was that was also in the EVE universe.
Dust 514 or Dust 514 is what it was called.
Oh, I remember seeing
Yeah, it was for PlayStation 3. It really wasn't all that great, but I just love the idea of taking a universe and getting a completely different spin on it.
Well, that's what WoW was.
Yeah.
That's what WoW was.
Yeah.
It would be, you know, what would be really awesome if Mass Effect did a 4x.
4X. Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Well, you could probably do a mod. There's probably mods for some 4X game that you could do it with.
Probably so.
4X game.
Civilization's a 4X game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, that's great, Chris. I'm glad you did that.
I'm thinking
good
Mass
job,
Effect
friends.
dating simulator. Like that would
So
make
that's
more
what it
sense.
is already.
Dude, I would take an Asari to a chicken dinner and call them back.
I don't see at this point. I think Will just has an alien thing. I don't even know.
Speaking of dating simulators, did you guys know that, or Mass Effect rather? Speaking of Massing Effect, holy
Massing
fuck,
Effect.
can't talk. Speaking of Mass Effect and dating simulators, did you know that most of those characters were based off of real life people?
In Mass Effect?
I knew
Yeah,
Miranda was.
Yeah, Miranda was. What's the Asari's name in the first one, the main one? Well, she's been through all 3 games. Liara Sony is based off a real character or a real human being. I don't remember these people's names, but you can see the resemblance side by side.
Yeah, they probably do like the voice actor to.
I don't know. These aren't all voice actors. Some of them are just like attractive people.
Someone at BioWare is just Googling attractive people like, who can we put in a video game?
Yeah.
Attractive people.
Attractive people. You.
And now Beyonce has blue hair and she's an alien. Done.
Nailed it.
Ian, what are you playing? What have you been doing?
I kind of went crazy for a new CCG this week.
Yeah, you did.
So I downloaded the public beta of Gwent, and I gotta say, I was a person who, when I played through The Witcher 3, I was one of those people who's like, this game is stupid. I'd much rather have whatever Final Fantasy VIII's version of the card game was called. I forget what it was, but it was actually pretty good. But Gwent is so much better outside of The Witcher 3, in my opinion.
Well, it's much more fleshed out.
Yeah, it's a fully fleshed game. For some reason, the mechanics inside The Witcher didn't make sense to me, but they make sense to me outside of it. The art in this CCG is drop dead gorgeous. So much, like, if you're one of those people who like, oh, I like all the gold cards in Hearthstone, like, you ain't seen shit. Go look at the animated cards in Gwent, because they're so awesome. Beautifully done. And some of them are really, I can't gush enough about how much fun this game is. I think part of it is a little bit, I'm still in the honeymoon phase, so I'm still discovering mechanics and learning how new things work, but I really am enjoying the way they put it together. Yeah, how cards work together. Yeah. There's a lot of character built into it. The person who give you cards is this troll. He's so funny. He's my favorite. It's just like, I don't, there's something about starting off CCGs that makes me so happy. Learning mechanics is the most fun thing for me ever. If I could just have a game that introduced a new mechanic like every 5 minutes, I would never stop playing it.
Interesting.
Those exist. I'm going to do some research. Don't go off on a tangent.
Get back to me on that.
I'll get back to you on that.
So I've been playing a lot of Gwent. I also rolled the credits on Super Mario Odyssey.
Nice. How many hours was it?
I couldn't tell you exactly. I think the last time I looked at it was like 10, so probably like 10 and a half hours. But after you finish the game, it's like, hey, the game's not over. Here's this whole new area that you haven't beaten yet. And also you can go back to all the other realms and they're all different now. So there's a lot of replayability. So 10 and a half hours is just scratching the surface. And I gotta say, I'm not tired of it at all. I want more.
Okay.
Although the whole Bowser marrying Peach thing is kind of weird.
What?
Hey.
Spoilers, dude. Come on.
No. That's the setup for the game.
That's the setup for the thing.
Bowser tries to marry Peach.
That's kind of speciesist, dude. I mean, come on.
No. Listen, Bowser and Peach were never meant to be together. It doesn't have anything to do with the species.
Dude, come on.
Well, I mean, he is forcing her to marry him.
Maybe Bowser has been misunderstood for decades.
What do you mean?
How do you mean?
He's trying to marry Peach.
No, I picture more of like a polygamist colony sort of thing.
like
he's just trying to collect as many princesses as possible.
Like a bunch of princesses there.
What if baby Bowser
is
all
part
right,
Peach?
Let's not talk about that. Let's not go
down that road. Let's talk about instead, and speaking of games on the Nintendo Switch, let's talk about some games that we want to see on Nintendo Switch. So we know that the console is successful. We know that it has gotten past its proof of concept phase where everyone doesn't know, is it handheld? Is it not a handheld? Where people are sure that third parties, at least Bethesda, is going to develop games for it. So we know that it's planted its footprint firmly in the gaming world, but it doesn't have that deep of a library yet. And so I want to know, what games do we want to see on Nintendo Switch?
Everything.
Will wants everything to be on there.
I want everything. They just, they're doing some really cool ports. Did you see LA Noire?
Yep, LA Noire's out there.
Oh, what a perfect! That's so awesome.
I'm a little bit soured on LA Noire because they're selling it at a $60 price point, I think.
Yeah, I'm not paying that for it. I'm just saying it's cool, but
aren't they giving you all
like?
but you're getting like all the DLC and like all the
Still,
was
60
there
bucks.
DLC for it?
Yeah.
7-year-old
I think I've probably
game,
paid
6-year-old.
$5
Dude,
for LA
I mean,
Noire or
how many
something.
times?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a question: how many times have you paid $60 for freaking Skyrim?
Once.
Once. I didn't pay $60 the second time either. But but I mean, like, it's still like it's been a long time. I guess that came out in when did that
An
come
old
out?
game. That came
Like
out before
2000.
GTA 5.
Yeah, that was like 2006,
No,
What, LA
not that
Noire?
old.
This was 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's an easy way for us to figure this out, right?
It is
The internet.
2011.
The internet.
Yeah, I mean, it
May
came out in
17th,
2011. That's
Boom.
at this point. That's what, like 5 years and 9 months or something, which is a fair long time ago. I like that it's on there. I think it actually could be a good game for the Switch. I just don't understand the $50 price point.
Well, I think they're going to do that with all their ports because if you want it on the go,
It's a closed ecosystem.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
I realize
Yeah.
that. I just
I mean,
don't
it's
think
kinda
they
like-
should.
And they have to pay for the port. Like, pay
Yeah, they
make
have to
the
pay
port.
to make it.
It's not like,
That makes
I mean,
sense.
it's not as easy as doing a port for PS4 or Xbox One, which are really close to being PCs anyways.
Maybe. I actually don't know that much of the difference between the PC Xbox architecture and the Switch architecture, but I have to imagine a lot of that is inside of wrappers anyway, so... But anyway, so LA Noire is actually a game that is on the Switch. The question is, what games we want to see on the Switch that aren't there? I'm going to go to Chris first.
Have you guys played Nidhogg?
Yes.
I think if you could do that with and like take the controllers out and because Nidhogg doesn't take a lot of controls. Like it's basically just moving back and forth and a stab button
A button,
and a direction.
which is totally a Nintendo-like game.
Right. And I think that would be a lot of fun to do that. Like that would be a perfect game. Like you and your friend are on the bus.
Throw down some Nidhogg.
Throw down some Nidhogg. Yeah. I think that would be super cool.
No, I think that's a really great one. And Nidhogg 2 had a couple of updates, I think, that would make it even sweeter for the
Yeah,
Switch.
I think I saw it at PAX East. They've done a lot of graphical upgrades, like visual upgrades to it. It looks
Right.
a lot better.
It-
Like it was very simple in the first version.
And it looks kind of grotesque in the second version, which is kind of fun. Nidhogg.
That'd be interesting. It's very simple. I don't know, but I don't know if the simple thing would be because it does have a lot of complexity as far as the controls. Like you don't need it just be one button and moving left and right because it has like both joysticks and all four buttons. And,
Well, I'm thinking like when you disattach the Joy-Cons so that two people can play on the same
got
screen.
it.
Yeah. And that's one of the hard things I think that developers are struggling with, or maybe it's more one of the opportunities that developers are struggling to take advantage of the Switch, is that it has so many control schemes built into it that taking advantage of them in intelligent ways can be a challenge.
You know, I think if there were ever an opportune time to get in on the classic games, the NES, and especially the SNES, now is the time with the Switch, because you're not tied to, like the Wii, having that on your TV only. That's coming with you everywhere, and I would love to go play some of those RPGs that were on Super Nintendo.
And another thing that I just thought of is
that'd be interesting.
any of the indies that are like calling back to that era would be great for it. Like Cuphead, I think would be great because it's the same
Cuphead is on
thing.
It would be
Switch.
good.
Oh, it is
It'd
on
be
Switch.
very good.
It is.
It is on Switch.
Just kidding then.
And
Well, but it's still good. It's still
Oh
good.
yeah, no, it's that's a really good game for it, in my opinion.
Is Shovel Knight. That's what it's called.
Shovel
is Shovel
Knight.
Knight?
Shovel Knight is
there?
on Switch as well. Yep.
Yes, it is.
I feel like those are
all
like
the
the
DLC.
couch. Those are like the couch co-op ones that are really neat. Like those 2D side scrollers. They get you going with. All
Is the
that
Secret
stuff.
of Mana remake going to it?
There are a bunch of games that are slated to be on Nintendo Switch's service, which is like $4
Square
a year.
Enix
So,
explains
like-
why the Secret of Mana remake isn't coming to Switch. That's
Oh,
cute.
well, there you go.
Well,
so,
that
like,
should.
Super Mario Brothers will be on there, Dr. Mario, like some other classic things will be on the thing. But yeah, it's not everything. And I remember there being a really solid virtual console lineup for the Wii and Wii U. And it seems like a ridiculous oversight that those things aren't all coming to the Switch immediately.
Well, yeah, I mean, it should. And they should do that as soon as possible because that's just a gold mine.
Dude, I'm telling you, this thing is an RPG machine because of the sleep mode function.
Go on.
Who cares if you can't save immediately? Like, okay, so Xenoblade Chronicles is a good example. Like, some of the narrative scenes in that are like a good 20 minutes long, and I can't stop what I'm doing. And that's a modern game. But on some of the older games where save points were an issue, and you're an hour and a half between saves, just sleep mode it, man. Come back to it this afternoon when you're done.
It's like closing your 3DS.
Yeah.
Kind of like closing your 3DS, but it's a
free
Switch.
states in emulators.
Dan, you got something over there? You got something for me, buddy?
I have one now that my computer's not exploding. That you actually wrote on your thing. I didn't read it until now, but but I just think it would be interesting if they fixed them, like how you have to connect to people on it, or is there like a multiplayer? Anything over the internet for it?
Yes, there is. So you can play games through the Switch that are multiplayer online, just like you would play Call of Duty on the Xbox Online.
Okay.
So there's not a server set up, but there is matchmaking services built into games. But the voice connection is actually a third-party app. Not a third-party app. It's a Nintendo app that you put on your phone.
That's very interesting.
It's very weird. Sorry, but please carry on.
But you put in your like little notes there the Diablo 3, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of neat to have Diablo 3. I mean, sometimes it would get a little explodey on that tiny little screen if you were mobile.
Sometimes it would get explodey on the tiny screen.
I wouldn't really be able to see anything, but that would be a fun game, like that kind of the top-down
arcade,
like arcade brawler or loot fest fiesta. Loot would be able to. Why not? I think that would do really well too, because it's kind of like there's a few of those that are for single player that are on handheld or like on phones, like mobile games and stuff like that. But this is like a much higher quality and a bigger screen and a whole bunch of really neat other neat stuff that would work pretty well.
I think anything that you can take little gaming bites out of that build up to something bigger is going to do really well on Switch, just because of the nature of clicking it on, playing for 15 to 20 minutes, and then putting it away.
Little bites.
Things like that are going to be great. I'd love to see some CCGs come to Switch. So Gwent or Hearthstone would be amazing on this console because there are touch controls and joystick controls. So you could swipe things into the board or use your joysticks.
The Switch does have touch control.
It has touch controls?
Yeah. So the screen is completely capacitive.
Okay.
You can type on it and stuff.
Okay.
So
cool.
That also makes it really an interesting thing for 4X games, and like a SimCity builder type game could work on there too in some really cool ways.
Yeah, when you put on here Civ 5/6, and I was like, that would suck with joysticks, but if it has touchscreen capabilities, like that does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes so there are all these control things that you could do with it. I'd also love to see them do something. Do you guys know the mobile game The Room?
Yes.
Yeah, great game.
So I'd love to see them blow The Room up into another dimension and make it like, okay, sometimes you're touching and manipulating the screen, and sometimes you have to detach Joy-Cons and like twist them in a certain way to get this thing to interact, and sometimes you have to like point it at the screen like a gun. Like there are so many ways that those controllers interact that it would be really cool to see someone build a game just based on taking advantage of all the controlling options, and The Room seems like a good fit for that.
Well, I mean that's what Nintendo does with all their systems, is they get into those, I don't want to say gimmicky, but gimmicky things they have.
They take gimmicks and they run with them.
They're just like, yeah, hey, this has another screen. Let's run with that.
Exactly.
Wii U. It has two waggy things you can waggle.
And they have survived. I mean, there's that old, you remember the, from the early 90s, the Sega Nintendo Wars, the commercials, Sega does what Nintendo don't. That was a thing. That was in the commercials.
No,
And,
I don't remember that.
Nintendo won. They did not fold like Sega did. They're still
Well,
going.
I mean, if the Switch wasn't good, they would have been pretty much done, I think.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. The Switch was a pretty pivotal moment.
God, the Switch is amazing. I just
I'd also, the other thing I'm really hankering for on the Switch is a really good action RPG.
yeah, that would be fun.
Like what?
Like Monster Hunter.
Like Monster Hunter, which I can't believe Monster Hunter XX is, coming to the Switch in Japan, but is
not
not
in
coming to
America.
Switch in America. Some of the Nintendo does this thing where you're like, yeah, Nintendo's the best, and then the next day you're like, fuck these guys, they're the absolute worst.
But I've said it before. I don't think Monster Hunter is like a super American, like popular American IP.
I don't think it's a super popular
not,
American IP. I
But
agree with you,
people
Dan,
like it.
but I think it could
But
be.
in
I think if-
America, do people like
Right.
it?
I mean, they're releasing Monster Hunter World for PC, I think sometime in 2018, probably at the end of 2018. And I think it's going to be huge. And then I think Nintendo's going to be kicking themselves for not releasing Monster Hunter onto Switch. I don't understand it. Even if like there is a Japanese game, so basically all you need to do is put it on the correct region and do English subtitles, and then print money. But that's just me.
Yeah.
That's right, Dan. That's right. Just
Yeah, I mean, I have Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and one of the only things that I don't like about it, it's on 3DS, and my hand just gets cramped from playing it on 3DS. And if it was on that bigger handheld feel,
yeah,
it would be so much better.
it would be so much better. Pop it open, go hunt some monsters with your friends, toss somebody else sitting right next to you a controller, be like, yo, let's kill this dragon, whatever. I think it could be really great.
Let's kill this dragon. Whatever.
Whatever. Let's kill this dragon. I wonder if part of the reason that a lot of developers aren't streaming to the Switch right now is because of graphical concerns, because it just doesn't have the muscle that other consoles do right now.
Yes and no. I think it's also just a drastically different architecture compared to like PlayStation and Xbox One are pretty similar. This is much different.
So you're saying there's a barrier for design, not necessarily a barrier in terms of hardware?
Well, I don't know if there'd be. Is there really such a huge barrier for design if they're releasing like Skyrim on the Switch?
Well, they're doing neat things with some of their designs. The LA Noire port allows you to play through the game without touching any of the physical controls if you want to. You can do it all with the touchscreen.
Keep in mind that these games are old, and an emulator to emulate those games won't be as difficult because they're old.
Right. And if you look at Skyrim on the Switch, it doesn't look not nearly as good as Skyrim on the original Xbox One, or even, as good as probably a mid-range computer. It looks like Skyrim on a super tiny computer, which is still awesome because it's still Skyrim, but
that's what it is. It's a super tiny little thing, It's got to sacrifice some stuff, and one of those things is graphics.
The question is, are designers thinking about creating new games for it more than they are about bringing old titles because they're worried about even old titles looking crappy? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm looking at upcoming games for it right now.
What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, Ukulele's coming out on it. That was already released.
And it was already not great. Okay, moving on.
Gear Club Unlimited. Mom hid my game! !
See, this is what I mean. Like, Mom hid my game coming to Nintendo Switch. Monster Hunter XX not coming to Nintendo Switch. What the hell is going on here?
Cluster Puck 99. I don't know what that is, but Cluster Puck with a P.
Got it. Cluster Puck.
Ooh, Stern
Tic-tac
Pinball
Switch.
Arcade.
Right. So there are a lot of things coming to Switch. I just worry. I really want to see other third-party developers other than Bethesda invest in the platform, because I think it could be really great.
That could be really good. I just looked at a really adorable looking game called Unbox. Newbie's Adventure.
I'm really excited for Battlefront 2 to come to the Switch for $60, and then the other $3,200 that it'll take to unlock all the special features on the Switch.
Is it coming to Switch?
No.
I was going to say.
I don't know
Although
if
it did, if there were a Battlefield-esque game for Switch, I would pick that up. I think that would be a ton of fun.
They
I have
should
to
do.
say... Oh, sorry, Dan, go.
No. Well, I mean, they should do like the original Battlefront 2
Yeah.
on the Nintendo Switch. I would play
That
the
would
shit
be
out
awesome.
of
That
that.
would be
That would
awesome.
be a ton of fun.
I gotta say, in terms of Doom on the Switch, in case anybody out there is thinking about it, I purchased
Don't.
Doom on the Switch.
No.
And it works just fine, but it's more like a proof of concept that something like a first-person shooter can work on the Switch than it is a game that you really want to play on the Switch. If you can get Doom on any other platform, you'll enjoy it more on any other platform. But it's cool that they managed to make that game work on Switch and work in a way that encourages other people to like, hey, here's a big gory first person shooter in the Nintendo bubbly happy fun times market. What do you guys got?
You know, I tried it on Switch, and it's granted I played it with the stock controller. I wonder if it would be better on the Pro controller, but I hated the controls. It was like playing without joints in your limbs. This is like straight arm, awkward stick figure man.
Starfish playing video games.
It was a smooth experience, I will say. It just felt wonky as all hell. But you're right. It's a cool proof of concept, and the fluidity with which it ran was impressive.
Yeah, especially for such a demanding title, and it looks like it is being pushed on the Switch, but that's good. I've never seen a first-person shooter look that good on a mobile handheld, so props to Bethesda and the Nintendo team for making that happen. Well, that's it for segment 1. GamBrew community, what games do you want to see on Nintendo Switch? Let us know by sending us an email at thegamebrew@gmail.com or hitting us up at thegamebrew on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about games that turn into work. Stick with us. Hello and welcome back to the second half of the Game Brew podcast. Let's check in with our beer, Brother Thelonius.
Hey,
How's
bro.
it sitting?
Broseph Thelonius.
Broseph Thelonius. I mean,
Was he a monk? That
no.
sounds like a monk's name.
no,
He's
he was not
Thelonius
a monk.
Monk. He's a
Thelonious
jazz
Monk's
pianist.
name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bro.
That's way better.
That's still not.
Sorry.
Really is.
That was one of his hit songs, right?
I appreciate that the subtitle for this beer is Bottled Bebop.
I love that.
That is pretty sweet.
It's pretty
That's neato.
Yeah,
pretty snappy marketing.
It's a nice Abbey Ale because it's not like super hefty. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's too much for me right now. Like
No.
I'm halfway through numero dos, and I'm like, yeah, I'm all right.
I don't
I'm good.
feel like it's 9.4%, but it is.
I do. You know what's funny is that the goblet of beer that he's holding on the label it seems much darker than the actual beer is in this. And so I was expecting almost a stout in terms of ales. But it's really not. It's more like a red than it is like a stout.
Yeah, definitely. It has that kind of flavor to it too. That's interesting. I didn't notice until you said that. Damn it, Ian, making me notice things.
Damn it. Why?
Worst.
All right, well, let's talk about our second segment today. And we're asking the question, when do games turn into work? It's a very sad thing. It's like, where do games go to die? But it's when do games turn into work? So the question is, why do we feel about games? Oh, wait, yeah, Dan, you have a point of order already?
Well, no, sorry. No, go ahead. You finish your thought.
Finish.
You
were holding
finish
up
your
your finger.
goddamn thought before I go nuts.
So the question is,
Not a
what
murder
makes
robot.
something work? Because when you think about games really are work. They're just super satisfying work. Human beings, I would posit, I would theorize. I think human beings like work. It's just that they like to be rewarded for work. And in terms of games, what it basically is, it's a super easy work that gives super great rewards. So games, to me, kind of are work, but what makes them bad work?
When you have to do busy filler shit. So I'm loving Xenoblade Chronicles 2 right now. And like the first 4.5, 5 hours of the game, it's like, oh my God, story, oh my God, story, oh my God, story, oh my God, story. And it's just, it's so good. And then you hit this town and you're like, but so like before you can go on with the story, you got to do these quests and all story elements stop for like 2 hours. And that's really upsetting to me. Like, well, fuck, I don't want to do this like work. I don't want to do chores. I want to play my video game and enjoy this wonderful narrative. But no, I got to do my chores for 2 hours before I can continue.
So for you, what makes it different is the fact that there's no narrative behind it.
Yeah, like if I'm doing something that interrupts the narrative progress in a game that is intended to be a narrative experience, that to me starts to feel like work. It's like, well, this is kind of not why I started playing this, but okay.
Yeah, and I felt the same way sometimes in Evil Within 2, since I just beat that. Did I mention that earlier? Did I talk about
You beat it.
You beat
We're
it.
really proud of you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Somebody send Dan a gold star.
Yay! If you actually send me a gold star, I'll be happy. But whenever you're playing through it, there is like the overarching narrative. There are these little side things you can do, and especially in like the first area you go through. And I totally dig the vibe that Will's putting down, just like that giant mug that he just put on his desk.
That thing is fierce.
That's ridiculous. But that it's like sometimes whenever you're enjoying the story and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, before you can go on, you have to go on these 7 fetch quests to get these things until you can actually go on through the narrative.
I mean, I would argue in some games it's done well, and I think that goes back to pacing. Sometimes you want to take a break and enjoy like the world that they created or whatever. So it's I feel like it's a very fine line between work, like busy work, and
Work.
something that's just a break.
Yeah, it sounds like in both of those cases that a lot of that is expectation. Or actually maybe I said it more than expectation. It sounds like it's pacing. So in Will's case, Xenoblade Chronicles opens up with all this exposition and all this plot, and then is like, okay, now here we are in the real game. Here's, the work that you have to do, get through the plot from here on out. Whereas if they had paced those moments out, space in between with gameplay, you might not be feeling that as hard.
Did you guys play Final Fantasy 15?
Nope.
A bit.
No, not really. That's the one with the pink-haired lady, right? Lightning or something?
No, that's Final Fantasy 13.
Okay,
This is
I'm
the
only
newest
2
one.
behind.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 15 is the newest one. Will, you played it for a little bit, right?
I did,
Yeah.
yes.
So why did you kind of pull away from it?
Mainly because of work, honestly. Like I was enjoying the experience. I was playing it over the summer since I'm a teacher, and then work started back up. I just didn't have time.
Okay. Well, I was playing it, and then I kind of got away from it because there's kind of this overabundance of things to do. I love side quests. I have told people that many times. I love side quests. They're great. But that game just has so many that it's almost frustrating to have so many. Like it's like, oh, I can go fishing. Oh, I got to hunt these things. Oh, I got to go to the Chocobo racetrack. Oh, I got to go to this town. Oh, there's 9 different quests that keep popping up in the old places that I just left because I just left them and I'm in a new place. So there's new quests that I got to go do. So for me, it's like, I got to do all of those in my head. Like Brain Dan is like, Dan, you can't go on until you go and complete all those quests at that original area you were just in. You have to do that. And I'm like, no, Robo Dan, you can't do that. You have to play the story. But it's like, no, Dan, you have to go. You need to go do those quests before
It's like
you do anything else.
notifications on an iPhone. It's like you can't ignore the red circle with the number. It's like you have to take care of it.
Dude, I don't know. I've seen so many people's iPhones that have like 7,000 emails on it.
Yeah,
There was one time that my Gmail had 25,000 unread.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah. I was
I
going to
finally
say
fixed that.
2 things. Number one, Dan, did you ever play Dragon Age Inquisition?
Yeah, until I got frustrated with it and stopped.
Right. So I feel like Dragon Age Inquisition did exactly what you described in Final Fantasy 15, where there was just way too many side quests to do, especially right at the beginning of the game. And I just got bogged down and I quit.
I couldn't do it. Like, I literally couldn't keep playing it because it was so frustrating to have so much to complete.
The other thing that I was going to say is that that's what differentiates game from work to me, is that in the game, when we feel like we're getting things accomplished and we're being rewarded, we keep playing, just like in work. But when there's not enough reward to what you're doing, or when there's too much work, it starts to feel like it's not giving anything back to you.
Or if it's monotonous.
Yeah. I would
Or
say
redundant.
Yeah.
Or you just have to do the same thing a lot.
Pedantic. I don't know what that word means.
Nobody got my joke.
I got it.
No, we got it. We just didn't choose to acknowledge it.
I
I was trying to think of some clever way to continue it.
It was funny.
I was trying to think of a clever way to continue it, but I couldn't.
No. I was just too dumb to recognize that it was a joke, and it was funny. So the other thing that I think helps games not feel like work, because ultimately we're just filling up little bars, right, is when there's a really solid community that surrounds a game. There's something about people being involved in a cooperative struggle that makes something feel less like work.
So I think that was kind of what WoW did. Because you had daily, like once you hit level cap and you were starting to do some of the end game content, you always had to go in and log in and do your dailies. You kind of have to do that in Destiny too as well. Or at least your weeklies. I remember it was in Mists of Pandaria. I played that briefly when that expansion came out. And you basically just had a farm. And it was Farmville, basically. Like you had to do all these like little quests so you could just get your dailies done to get a couple hundred gold every day. And it became like work. And like once I kind of thought about that, I was like, this is dumb. I'm not going to keep doing this.
Well, so why did it become like work? Was it that you felt like you weren't getting enough reward, or was it felt like it was too hard, or it was?
It wasn't hard. The only reason I kept doing it was because it was WoW was a community, and it was a place to hang out with people.
Yeah.
And you would just do those things while you were hanging out.
Right.
So that made it okay, but after a while, it just became so monotonous because you were doing the same. Like they would cycle through a couple different dailies every week or every day,
and it would just be the same stuff.
It'd be the same stuff like on a cycle every couple days.
So it wasn't interesting enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that you brought up Farmville, because I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because that was kind of one of the first like huge like freemium games.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about that?
Like those
some
Facebook
episodes
games,
ago?
like
yeah, like
it was
one
like
of the,
Mafia Wars or something like that.
Yeah,
that was a big one.
Those were one of the big ones. That was one of the big ones too. It's just so interesting that back then we made such a big deal about like, oh yeah, I got to go check on my farm every day, and it's got to be, and I've got to do all this stuff, and it's like this much work. And you actually physically said to yourself, oh, I got to make sure I spend the 20 minutes to go and check on my farm and move all these things around and share things with my friends.
Dailies, man.
Get Facebook followers.
Well, that
and like,
I was gonna say, Dan, that segues nicely with Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, which I don't know if anybody else picked up, but I picked it up and put it down.
I played New Leaf, so I kind of knew what I was going into, and I like Animal Crossing. I enjoy it. It's very much busy work, but it's very cute busy work.
so cute.
And I like that. There's like every level you are introduced to a new character within the campground in Pocket Camp. And so there are certain characters like, oh man, I want them to be in my campsite. So then I go do the things I need to go get that person in my campsite. And it's ridiculous and busy work, but it's adorable.
Yeah, and I don't know what part of Pocket Camp isn't enough like the other Animal Crossings that it didn't resonate with me. Pocket Camp is the only Animal Crossing title that I've played, so I feel like now I have a negative impression.
Oh.
But it felt, you know what felt like work to me with Pocket Camp was that there just wasn't enough complex interaction to keep me interested. I love the idea of having a game that's just about building relationships with animals that want to be your friends and getting them to come hang out at your camp. I just need a little more meat on the bone to keep me coming back.
I think Ian, you need to actually play like the original GameCube version of Animal Crossing. Or
do you have a 3DS?
You have a 3DS.
No.
You don't have a 3DS.
I have a Switch.
Buy yourself a 3DS. Use that adult money to buy a 3DS.
Or like the new 2DS is pretty cheap now,
right.
I think. Isn't
It's like
Yeah, it's
70
not super.
or 80
Well,
bucks or
yeah, it's like $70.
It's not that bad. But get New Leaf. New Leaf is a lot of fun.
And that's one of the things about Animal Crossing that I think, and this is a good thing that keeps you coming back, whereas that you have this town.
Yeah.
At Animal Crossing, you have a town. Things change daily. Like the internal clock on the system keeps track of what's happening daily. So if you don't go there for a while, a bunch of weeds will grow up in your town, and you have to like go and pull all those weeds, or else people start leaving or start being really unhappy because there's a bunch of stuff there.
So is this
My
like
poor
a game
town.
that threatens
My poor
you
town.
to play it? If you don't play it, it's like, you better come back and play this game, or I will make a bunch of weeds.
But like if you haven't played it for a while, it'll be like, oh my gosh, we missed you.
No, seriously. Like people be like,
so
"Oh, I
cute.
haven't seen you for a while. It's really good
I
to
can
see
see
you."
Will over here is just like, fuck this game.
Yeah.
When I
Stupid.
was a kid, like pulling weeds was a form of punishment. Like,
It's still
why
a
do
form
I
of
want that
punishment.
in my video games? Why do I want that? That's like ordering Brussels sprouts as an adult. It's like, hey, welcome to Denny's. Would you like Brussels sprouts? Fuck
Dude,
no, I don't want Brussels sprouts.
are
You know
you
why I don't
saying-
want Brussels sprouts? Because I'm an adult and I don't have to eat that shit.
Dude, I like Brussels sprouts.
Dude, Brussels sprouts are actually pretty
Actually,
delicious.
that is a
Boom.
good point.
You haven't had good Brussels sprouts.
You haven't had the right Brussels sprouts,
apparently
bro.
not.
Well, so
Boom.
It was
so
an
You need
analogy.
some Brussels sprouts with
here's
bacon,
another
bro.
thing that I was thinking
What
about
up?
along those same lines as Will is thinking right now. Stardew Valley is basically work as a game, and yet there are people who commit untold hours to it.
I think.
My girlfriend.
Yeah, but so why?
Katie.
Because she enjoys it.
Yeah, but
Because
why does she enjoy it? What's satisfying about it?
She likes building the relationships with the townsfolk. She likes building her farm so it's as efficient as possible. It's optimizing the money you make, which is cool. I like that. And it's just progression. Like you can see that your money is paying for things. I think that's
There's
like
a
you can
sense
see
of
progression.
moving forward. Yeah, that's really huge.
I mean, in episode 4, I talked about Stardew Valley and how that was what I looked forward to at the end of my day, because I deal with so much random crap during the day that whenever I get home, it's kind of nice to just be like, okay, I'm just going to pick these goddamn turnips and then mine some
Fucking pick the
rocks.
shit out of these turnips.
Oh, good, yeah. And then I'm going to go to bed. It's going to be glorious.
There is something to be said for having a result, something that is tangible, that shows up at the end of your work. I remember when I was working as an instrument repairman for this brief
Shen
period
Valley?
in my life at Shen Valley. That's right. That the sense of accomplishment from saying like, yep, I've fixed 6 trumpets, 2 euphoniums, and 2 trombones today, and there they are, and these are the things that I did for them, is really satisfying. Where when a lot of us work in jobs that are like teaching, like the kids got better today, it's really hard to quantify and feel good about
It's hard
it
to
because
check that box.
yeah, because you don't, there's no like little level bar going up that says like, yep, the kids got this much better at articulation and this much better at tuning, and they are this much more friends with each other. There's just nothing that
it's,
does that.
it's unquantifiable.
Whereas if you can pick 5 turnips, if you get $50 for them, you're like, all right, $50. What's up?
I wish I could sell turnips for $50 for 5 of them.
You could probably do that in LA.
It's 50 video game monies.
These are
That's really what it is.
organically,
Well,
sustainably,
in Animal Crossing, it's
ethically
bells.
farmed.
It's
turnips.
bells, which is weird. I imagine you walking around with a bag full of really jingly stuff, and it's just the most annoying thing in the world.
Like the louder people are, the more fashionable they
yeah,
are. So there's just
the
like
more,
bells on
the
it.
richer they are.
Sirens
full
are
of
like for
bells.
super rich people. All right, GamBrew listeners, what are some games that turned into work for you? Were they games that were really long, that asked you to make a lot of commitment to them, or were they games where you just didn't hook up with their playing mechanics? Let us know by sending us an email at thegamebrew@gmail.com or by hitting us up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Game Brew. We just want to let you know, a quick PSA, that next week we are going to do another round of gift giving, which is really exciting. So if you remember a couple episodes back, maybe 6 or 7 episodes back, we did this thing called White Elephant Gaming. We're going to sort of mix that up and do it again, and we're all going to throw a game into a pile, and then we're going to randomly choose who gets what game and play those games for a little while. It should be super fun, so look out for that on our next episode. Anybody else have anything they want to contribute before we sign off here? And we just want to give everybody a chance to say hi, or maybe people want to say something inspirational, like live, laugh, love, or like follow your dreams, or like shoot for the stars.
You are doing well, but Superman does good.
Nope. The GamBrew has no inspirational words for you.
I
mean,
said
you're kind
mine.
of throwing
I
it
said
at us
mine.
here out of left field. I just gotta.
I said mine.
There's an old saying: "White water in the morning."
Is that's it?
it.
That's the old
That's it.
saying.
That's it.
What's that? What's that one? Red sky
There's
at
an old
night,
saying.
sailors delight.
When in Rome.
Do what the Romans do. Jesus, you're making me finish all your goddamn sayings.
When in Rome. That was the saying.
It's not the whole thing. That's like the first time I heard what's the thing? Oh, it's about hay. It's
for horses.
hay is for horses, and I didn't know there was like a whole thing. So it's like hay is for horses, sometimes cows, pigs would eat it, but they don't know how. That's the whole saying that I never knew, and it's amazing that I went so long in life, 22 years to be exact.
And now you know.
I went 31 years
And knows
without
half the
knowing
battle.
because that's
Because
complete-
knowledge is power, or knowing is half the battle. 'cause knowledge is power.
All right, I think that's it for us this week, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye,
Goodbye,
everybody.
everybody.
I'm gonna go play the Switch. now.
Goodbye, everybody. I'm gonna go pee my pants probably.
All right. Good
Gross.
work. Let's call that a
And-
wrap.
Hunter, warrior, pilgrim.
Pilgrim.
Hunter warrior pilgrim. He was kicked out of England for
Blood
having trail. a different religion, and now he's getting revenge.
Bye.
Warrior Pilgrim.
Warrior pilgrim. This Thanksgiving, you're what's for dinner.
Oh, that's great. Oh, shit.
That's wonderful.